What's shaking? Hey, I'm Rick Jordan, and today we're going all in. What's shaking? Hey, we're back. I'm Rick Jordan, and today we're going all in. Your life is out of control. I'm telling you right now that your life is out of control, and I'm also going to tell you why that is and what to do about it. You feel like you're spiraling. You feel like you can't get out. You feel like you're in a hole and you can't see the top of this thing. You feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. You feel like everything is weighing down on you. When that happens, we tend to look externally and think that we can't change our circumstances and we can't do anything about it. And it's because we're blinded by our own stupidity. We are lying to ourselves when that happens. Today, it's time to get honest with yourself. Today, it's time to get out of this and move forward, because it only takes one day. It takes one decision. It takes one pivot point in your life to make a huge difference and start the momentum. That's all it takes. The first reason your life is out of control is you have poor decision making. You know, we make decisions every day, right? And our decisions, they compound on top of each other. So those decisions will lead to another one, to another one, to another one. And each one of those creates this ripple effect. And when we get into this mode to where if we don't have discipline and control over our decisions and we allow only our moods and emotions to dictate these things, it leads to poor decision making. Now, there's a cousin to this poor decision making too, and that's indecision, meaning not making a decision about something. And you keep pushing it off because not making a decision is a decision. And this is where that emotionality and those moods come into play even more, because they start to build up and you start to shove this stuff aside. I've been guilty of this in my own life so many times, to where now, I'm talking like years ago, to where now this isn't the case. Because here's what you have to realize. When you actually make a decision, you relieve stress off of yourself. And then when you make a decision that is sound, based on things that you know, or even intuition, and I'm not talking about moods or emotion, because intuition is different than moods or emotion. Intuition is something that you know in your knower. Deep inside, you trust your gut. You allow your intuition to guide you when you don't have all the data, but usually you have something to go off of. And those moods and emotions, when I say that they blind you to what reality is. Because you've got reality facing you all over the place. You've got it staring you in the face. And then your moods take over, your emotions take over, and it leads to poor decision making. So it's two things. It's poor decision making, and then it's evil cousin, even more evil cousin, which is worse, in my opinion, is indecision. If you sit on something too long, the opportunity will pass you by. Life is a lot about timing. When something's there, and it'll keep knocking at your door, it'll keep knocking at your door, it'll keep knocking at your door once, twice, 3 times maybe. And then after that, it's just going to go by. Because if you don't do something with it when it shows up, you miss that. Doesn't mean you won't have another opportunity, but you know what? It's going to be harder and harder and harder. You're going to feel more stuck because of indecision or poor decision. Second reason your life is out of control, you're in the spiral, is inconsistent habits. You know that it takes next to no time whatsoever to build a bad habit? Think about food has always been a thing for me, right? Think about you go into the holidays, think about grabbing a couple of those, for me, it's like mint M&Ms. Back when I was a kid, I make myself sound like I'm an old man when I say that, but back when I was a kid, there was mint M&Ms, and they were like a special thing. They were once a year. Now you can get them all year round. That's great, right? I mean, hell, even Cadbury mini eggs is another delicious thing around Easter time, but now you can get those at Christmas too. Now they're the little ornaments. It's more accessible to these things, and there's things around you all the time that you can indulge yourself without the discipline and create the bad habit, because it just takes once to start it. And I'm not talking about indulging in a controlled way. Not at all, because when I lost weight, I love to go back to this. I said, you know what, I'm going to go 30 days, and at the end of 30 days, I'm going to reward myself, and I'm going to go to a Brazilian steakhouse and eat all the freaking meat that I want to. For 30 days, I had no sugar, no alcohol, stuck within, it was a 1,500 calorie intake at that time. And I said, if I do this for 30 days, I'm going to reward myself. And then I got through the 30 days. I'm telling you, day 3 was difficult, right? It takes a lot more energy, a lot more effort, a lot more consistency to form the good habits than it does the bad. Have you noticed that? The bad habits form like almost instantly, but the good habits take day after day after day after day. And it is tough, but it is worth it. And when we allow those bad habits to form, we actually become a victim to our bad habits. And it's time to look in the mirror, because that first time you did whatever it was, that first time you decided to pick up the candy, that first time you decided to tolerate what somebody is doing to you rather than hate it. Did you hear that? That's a Malcolm X thing, by the way. Whatever you don't hate, you will begin to tolerate. The first time you tolerate it instead of hate it, it becomes a bad habit. The third reason why your life's out of control is unreliable motivation. Now you're listening to this show, right? You're watching this show. This is motivation for you. Today is motivation to tell you to frickin' take control of your life again. That's what this is, right? But that's awesome. But the unreliable motivation turns into when all you're doing is consuming the motivation and taking no action. You can watch this show time and time and again, and I'm grateful because this show is top 2% in the world. It's awesome. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you're doing something with what you get out of this show every single week, twice a week when the episodes are released. Because if you're not, there's no sense in listening to this. If you're not taking what you hear and actually applying it and taking some action, that is unreliable motivation, because motivation has to shift into action. You have to do something. Otherwise, it's wasting time. You could be out doing something else right now. You could be listening to music if you're commuting to the work rather than listening to this show. You could be doing something else to make you feel better in the moments, but unreliable motivation becomes reliable motivation when you take action. And that has to be day after day after day. That's the only way to continue. You're like, oh my God, that's so overwhelming. You know what? Well, what would you rather have? 6 months from now, looking back, do you want to be in the same spot? Because you know what? If it takes 6 months for you to get through something in your life, if you start it today, it's going to happen 6 months from now. If you start it a week from now, it's going to happen 6 months and a week from now. If you start it 3 months from now, it's going to be better 9 months from now. So how long are you going to delay what you want in your life? That's the question to ask yourself. How long are you going to delay? Because there's nobody to blame but yourself. You can start today with anything. And if you don't know how, that's a very valid reason. And I want you to listen to this right now. I get all excited and I get all pumped up about these things because of calling things out. And you know what? I tend to do this because these are all things that I've struggled with in my life. I don't ever come at you with things that I see that are external and all that. You know, certain things inspire me and everything, but then different ways I reflect upon myself when I'm eating breakfast or whatever. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm glad that is no longer a thing for me. I'm glad that I decided to make a shift. I'm glad I decided to take action. I'm glad I decided to take that motivation that I listen to, because I go out and I consume that all the time. But you can't be a junkie. You can't be a motivation junkie. You have to be an action junkie. Motivation junkie will get you through the day. An action junkie will change your life. That's powerful. The fourth reason why your life's out of control is the lack of delayed gratification. Now, hear me on this. The lack of delayed gratification. You think, well, delayed gratification, that means like nothing right now, right? So isn't delayed gratification bad? No, it's the best ever. Because if you're only after things for right now, if you're only doing something to get off today, if you're only doing something to have that immediate rush, that immediate high, you're never actually setting yourself up for what you want in the future. You're never actually changing your life because everything is all about today. You're just living right now. And people say live in the moment. And while that's true, when it comes to realize things that are coming and enjoying where you're at right now, without the control in your life, you will still be in the same position today that you will be 6 months from now. if you're only looking for right now, because consistency and discipline and persistence is what will get you through all of this stuff. Because every day, when we are talking about decisions, every day needs to be compounded on itself to start producing. And I don't know if you're familiar with finances, but compound interest is the biggest way to make amazing money in an investment, because it's not just like one step after the other. You make one decision today, you make another decision tomorrow. It's immediate doubling effect, right? Because then you make another decision on day 3, but that doubles, which is quadruple where you were on day 1. In just 3 days, you're 4 times further ahead because you're consistent with this. But you keep your eyes towards what you're going after, and you're saying, I want that. If you're looking out and maybe you're thinking right now that you don't want something, or you don't even know what you want, that's a different scenario altogether. Because if you don't know what you want, if you truly have not searched your soul for what you want in your situation, in your life, in your marriage, in any relationship, in work, in a job, in whatever, if you don't know what you want, you will go after the immediate gratification day after day after day after day, and you'll still be in the same place today and tomorrow and the next day and the next week and the next month. I don't want to see that happen to you. I want to see you fulfill and achieve everything you want, and the only way to do that is to take control of your life. I've given you 4 ways, hard-hitting ways today to go after. Today's the day for most of you, hopefully. Right, but I always say this from stage. It's like if there's 10,000 people listening today, you know what? I know that only 1,000 are actually going to hear me. And what's even more so is that out of that 1,000 that actually be like, oh yeah, Rick's really speaking to me today. I know that only 100 of those will actually take action. It's usually like 1%. Be an action junkie. Go all in.